We're going to keep it light. Yeah. But if you want to make it dark, a little dark, then I'm sort of predisposed to indulging that, so I won't stop you.
We're happy here.
Yeah, we're happy in Windsor. Oh,
I can shout, but
try it again. I think Mike's.
1, 2.
Mike's
1, 2, 1, 2. Hello.
There we go. All right. So a little bit about Ron Duguay. Most of you, especially the hardcore hockey fans in here, there are a lot of you know about Ron. 12 seasons in the National Hockey League. 274 goals, which is 274 goals, and even Jeff Burgess and Al Sim. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah, more than me too, believe it or not. Yeah. How's it going, Ron?
Well, right now I'm having a good time. I love being around people who are fun, they're happy, and I love going to a bar where there's music. So I was at the Spitfire last night. I danced my ass off.
I'd love to hear that. I'm sure the Spitfire loved it and everyone else.
Yeah, it brings me back to my days in New York where I was single. I spent a lot of time at this place called Studio 54, some of you might.
I wasn't going to go there right away, but I'm glad you did. It's funny because 15 minutes ago, one of my buddies in this room came over and said, Studio 54? I said, it might come up, I don't know. So you've opened the door to Studio 54.
Yeah.
So we'll start with that, and then we'll work our way around. So what was the...
How much time do we have?
I think we have 20 minutes. It's going to go fast if we keep going like this. So... You are, if I'm not mistaken, a native of Sudbury, Northern Ontario.
Yes.
You were raised in a place called, is it Valcaron?
Valcaron in Hanmer, which is north of Sudbury.
Okay, I was going to ask you where that is.
So it's a small community, very similar to this. That's why I'm within my comfort zone, being around you, because of the type of people in Sudbury are very similar. Where it's just very homey, friendly, happy. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of stress here, and we all have something in common. Well, two things in common. We're all very proud Canadians, yes? Very proud Canadians, and we all love the sport of hockey.
It's sort of like a Sudbury Saturday night, of sorts.
Yeah. So I was like a lot of kids here. I'm just that little guy who was playing hockey in a pond that just was pretty good at the sport and had an opportunity to play at the highest level. And I got to do a lot of fun things, meet a lot of fun people. And one of the things, once I got to New York, I was introduced to Studio 54. But let's go back to my childhood.
So yeah, we're bouncing around a bit, but I am interested in knowing.
I will share it with you.
I'm interested in the culture shock.
So you didn't get that?
The small town, yeah, sure, I get it.
Okay.
Some of them are a little younger than me. Maybe even younger than you, possibly. But some of them still don't get it. Okay. But anyway, you can tell me that part later. But the small town boy from Northern Ontario, who is in Manhattan, and I know you're not just plucked there one day, but did it feel that way? Like, was it intimidating, or was it like the kid in the candy store who got to meet people like Sheriff at some point?
I think Wendell will tell you that it's either in you or it's not. The wanting, because we, as hockey players, we're playing a sport, but the sport is more than a sport, it's entertainment. So you have to provide both. You got to be a good athlete and be entertaining. And if you enjoy crowds, if you enjoy 18,000 people, then it should bring the best out of you. Some may be afraid of it, some of us not. I loved it. There couldn't have been a better place for me to go in, as far as how I feel inside of me, which I didn't know. I just kind of tapped into it. You're playing, when I was in Sudbury, I was playing in the Sudbury Wolves, playing major junior hockey there. There's like 3,000-4,000 people watching. But for those 3,000 people, to me that was a lot. And I love the energy of the building. I love when I scored a goal, the energy. I love the interaction. And so going to New York was just bigger and better and probably the biggest. You go to New York, you have Madison Square Garden. And I kind of knew what to do the first time I stepped on the ice. And I tell this to kids as players. I said, if you're going to step on the ice, be recognizable, be noticeable, do something where they leave the building and say, wow, did you see that number 10 out there? Did you see what they did? You see that Wendell Clark? Wow, he crushed guys out there, right? So be that guy. Find a way to do something. And for me, I stepped on the ice because I was a big guy, fast. I just went 100 miles an hour, and the Ranger fans just loved it. And so from day one, game one, I became very popular, and I just went along with it. I wasn't going to be a regular guy. Even if I didn't score a goal, I wasn't going to be a regular guy on the ice. I was going to be noticeable.
And I think you just answered my next question, because I was wondering, as someone who grew up in a small town in Canada and was a first-round draft pick and was being parachuted into one of the biggest fish bowls in the hockey world, if that was some pressure to live up to, but I think you just answered it. You were ready for all that already.
Well, a lot of it is a level of confidence. You know, there are players that I've seen who've had a lot of talent, but didn't have the security, have the confidence in themselves. So I had, not that I was cocky, I was just confident. I just believed in myself. Whether I was 12 playing against 14-year-olds, whether I was 10 playing against 12-year-olds, I was going to be better than them. I wanted to play against older guys. Now it's gone full circle. I'm 60. I want to go head to head against a 20-year-old. Like I dare a 20-year-old try to push me around.
Well, we could maybe, and you have someone who might be able to help you with that.
But you know what I'm saying? It's all in how you kind of view things. And so I was always self-motivated, and I always wanted to try to be the best. And that just kind of, I was very comfortable in Madison Square Garden. I couldn't have been more comfortable. I loved it. In fact, I hated wearing a helmet as a junior player. I always take it off. I hate wearing a helmet. So once I got to the NHL, you know, Phil Esposito, Rod Duguay, these guys skating around with a helmet. I said, well, that's right, I can play without a helmet. And so I had the big hair back then. And so it just all kind of came hand in hand for me.
Okay, so number 10 and the hair. And a lot of people in this room are thinking number 10 and the hair, Guy Lafleur. Yeah. Was there a connection? Did the flower influence number 10 for you? Or anything else?
Not at all. I've always been my own person. I respected Guy Lafleur. In fact, I was a kind of a John Belligold fan. But I just always felt, and I tell this to kids also, just be yourself. You may respect and may like others. Like for me, another guy was Bobby Orr. I love how Bobby Orr controlled the game. I love how he skated up the ice.
Everyone did.
But I didn't have number 4. Number 10 to me just felt right. And in fact, I was a Leaf fan. Yeah. Among all the Montreal Canadiens fans, I was a Leaf fan, and the captain of the Leaf was George Armstrong. He wore number 10. I just like how number 10 looks on the jersey. And so, big hair, number 10, flying. It worked. Yeah.
So, at what point did Studio 54 interfere with your very demanding professional job?
I was probably in the best shape of my life when I was playing for the Rangers, going to Studio 54. Because some guys after the game, they'll ride a bike to get rid of the lactic acid in their legs. I would go right to Studio 54. I'd be on that dance floor. Oh my God. My cardio that year was awesome. I was in great shape.
And there were some late nights. There were some quick turnarounds, right?
Yeah, there were late nights.
But you made morning practice.
I knew to pick my spots. And back then, coaches knew that we were partying. And it was almost encouraged. They wanted us to be out. Sonny Werblin was the president of Madison Square Garden. He had Joe Namath before me. So he kind of tabbed me as Joe's son. He didn't come out and say it, but he basically said, just go and have some fun. The fun started when a guy showed up by the name of Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks had won the gold medal, as you all know, and he came in, he had won with a bunch of kids that he controlled, not men, but boys.
Miracle on Ice.
And so he shows up to New York right after, and what does he get landed? He lands me, right? And he's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this guy? Well, fortunately for me, my first year, I ended up scoring 40 goals, because I had just finished playing in Canada Cup. So I was playing with Guy Lafleur, we were playing on that team. And so I showed up to training camp, and I was flying score 40 goals with him. But he would always see me in the gossip pages, right? He would always bring me in and tell me, Ron, I need you in the sports page, not in the gossip page. And so we'd always have that conversation. I'd be out there. I said, Herbie, I scored 2 goals for you last night. What's the deal, right? Just leave me alone. So, but that didn't live very long. He traded me away.
What about playing hurt? What about psychological pressures? Does that at some point start to factor in and tilt the equation?
Playing hurt with a hangover?
Yeah, or maybe even injury. Who knows?
You know, I was pretty healthy through my whole career. One of the things I grew up, my dad was a weightlifter bodybuilder, so at the age of 12, I had a gym downstairs. So at an early age back then, would have been late 60s or early 70s, I was in the gym getting ready, getting strong, getting fast, and so I was in great shape all the time. And so I didn't really have to deal with many injuries. And do I believe in playing through injuries? Some minor stuff, yes. But if it's going to hurt your play, I'm not a believer in it. I'm a big believer in resting.
So then the pressure to perform after
Playing guilty?
10 years, and things start to catch up as they do with every athlete and every person. Was there compromise? Was there a reckoning, or you know, a time where things weren't as much fun?
Well, yeah, if you're on the top line on the power play getting 25 minutes a game, then you're on the fourth line getting 8 minutes, that's not much fun. And so that kind of happens to players. I'm not going to go through all the things that kind of happened to me. I had some bad luck to get the wrong coach at the wrong time, and this happens, and you struggle, next thing you know, and if you're making too much money, they can bring in a younger player for half the money. All those things play into this, and it's just the nature of the sport. I played 12 years in the NHL, I went to Germany, played some time in the minors. I played 16 years, but I should have played at least 16 in the NHL. That's one of my regrets. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm still out there chasing a goal. I seriously, not only do I love playing, but I still feel unsatisfied not having scored enough, not having won enough. Although I gave it my best, it just wasn't enough. So that's why I stay in great shape. I still want to play. And if you're going against me, I'm going to beat you down.
Wow, I believe that. So you made the transition after, I think, 12 years in the NHL. You made the transition to coaching, minor league coaching for several years. How do you make that transition, and how does Ron Duguay impose discipline on his players?
Yeah. Well, it happened really quick. In fact, I had moved to Jacksonville, Florida. There was a minor league team there, and I was playing the men's league, and so I had no intention of playing. But they would call me whenever they needed players. I was in great shape. So I started playing some games. Next thing you know, they fire their coach, and they say, Ron, would you like to coach? There's 12 games left in the season. I had never coached other than youth hockey. And I'd become friends with these kids, right? And partying and playing, and next thing you know, the next day they show up in practice and I'm coach, and I got my coach's hat on right now. And I had to tap into what I thought I needed to do to make the team have a good finish, which was discipline, had to change things, play the game in a different way. So I just kind of tapped into things that I didn't know I had, but it came out. And so I finished the season, started the next season fresh, and I brought in the type of players that I wanted to have, which players that had a lot of speed and guys that I felt had a little more, their personality was right as far as playing hard money to win. Well, the next year I won a championship. And so, yeah, in my second year. And so I thought, well, you know what, I might be pretty good at this. So at the minor league level, though, it's very difficult because there's a salary cap. And what they do down there at the salary cap, they cheat on the salary cap. So so because I was winning, other teams were cheating, bringing in players that they couldn't afford and making their team a little bit better. And I wouldn't cheat. So after 4 years, I said, you know what, I've had enough of this. And so I kind of took a break. And I was asked to interview at Madison Square Garden as far as doing television, being an analyst. Interview, got the job, and I've been doing that ever since. So I've been 12 years working for MSG Network as an analyst, best job in the world. You put your feet up, watch the game, and you talk about it.
Okay, so not to belabor the point, but was your minor league team a bunch of party guys like you, and you didn't give a damn, or what?
They were. And I partied with them.
And you won a championship.
Yeah. Well, the year we won the championship, no, I had to back off a little bit. No, I had to bring a different tone. So I was kind of thinking, well, you know what? I may give this a shot, a career in coaching. So I had to back off on certain things. But a lot of it is just communicating with your players, just having a good relationship with them where they respect you. Here are the boundaries. You have to put boundaries on everyone. And here are the boundaries. Here's what you can do, you can't do. All I need for you to do is show up, have a good practice, show up, play hard in the game, and then I'll give you time off, and I'll give you play time. And so they said, yeah, okay, that works. And so we won.
Wow. One thing that we often, in the general public, don't hear about prominent athletes or the things that you like to do away from the game. You've still got a hand in the game, but what are the kind of things, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Studio 54 is not seeing as much of you as it used to. I don't know if it's open anymore.
It's open now.
Yeah. But what are the kind of pastimes or hobbies you have that maybe people don't know about?
All right. Well, I've gone.
Can you even talk about them?
I've kind of gone full circle with New York, Manhattan. When I first got there, I was very single, very, 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 very single, and I'm again very, 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 very single. So, and I'm 5 years into being single, but it's a little bit different when you're older, and so I don't have the same habits. But pastimes I really like to do what I did last night. To go to a pub, be around some good people, listen to some good music, and I just make it up and dance. As I did last night. And so, if I can find a place like that, that's my happy place. All right, as far as entertainment. I have full access to Madison Square Garden. I have an all pass to all at Madison Square Garden. So they often have concerts. I'll go see Billy Joel. I get to be almost on stage with them, and so I love that kind of entertainment. When I'm at home, I chose the life of living in Florida and flying every week to New York. And so whenever I have 2 days off, fly to Florida, I go relax, sit some time on the beach, go back to New York, I'm back into being me. I love playing tennis, I play golf, and again, I'm still enjoying what I do here, interaction with people, interaction with fans. I have the best job in the world where everything I do, people like to meet with me, like to talk to me, they appreciate what I do, and where else can you go where you have that kind of job, right?
Yeah, and still the other hobby of reading encyclopedias like you did with Cher that night. That's what you were referring to earlier, right?
Yeah, I've been asked many times to write a book about stuff that I've done. I could probably write a book for every month I was in New York. That's how much fun I had. But having said that, I'm not a kiss and tell type of guy. So, my book might be a little bit boring. I may name drop a little bit, I may say a little stuff here and there. But as far as small details, if I was to talk about her and she was to find out, she would chop my nuts off.
She would too.
She would.
Yeah.
Trust me. She would.
What do you miss about playing the game?
The entertainment part. I mean, I would love to step on the ice at Madison Square Garden, wear my number 10 Ranger jersey on and just go perform. I love performing. That's why I still like touring. It brings me alive. And I guess I want to share about today also. I really wanted to be here to kind of witness the beginnings of hockey, the birth of hockey, because I really didn't know a whole lot about it. And so when I showed up today, I kind of did what I do with a lot of my work. I prepare. I mentally prepare. And so as I was pulling up today, I was just kind of thinking, what was it like back in 18 so-and-so to be a kid, to walk out, to be in the pond. And so I'm visualizing all of that. And that's why for today, when I stepped on the ice, I felt the spirit of the beginning of hockey, because hockey's been so good to me. It's given me so much. And if only I could have spoke to those kids, I would have said, thank you very much, because I benefited from you creating the sport of hockey.
Well said. Very well said. It's an awesome place. What would you have done with yourself if you hadn't been an NHL hockey player?
You know what? I had no other interest. I really did. I was all in. I mean, I was 14 years old, and I had a good idea that I was going to be a good player. I was playing junior B hockey, scoring a bunch of goals in the top 10. At the age of 15, I'm drafted to major junior underage, and you start traveling a lot, and so it starts to affect your schooling. And so I'd be going to school every other day, and when I'd show up at noontime. So finally, that's in grade 10, finally the principal came up to me and said, Ron, don't even bother coming. and so I said, oh, okay. So I didn't finish my school. And my parents were fine with it, because both my parents only had grade 6 education, because they had to start working. And so they were okay with it. They saw a guy that they thought was going to make it. And to look back, do I have any regrets? Not really. I mean, I wouldn't encourage that. It's like I wouldn't encourage anyone to play hockey without a helmet. No. So I really didn't have any other interests. I didn't have a backup, so I had to do it. So that's why I've been able to stay in the hockey world all my life.
That's fascinating about the no helmet and the decision to use the lack of helmet and the hair as part of your brand at that time. I mean, you were not a professional marketer, but you marketed that hair as part of your brand, and it helped your game, it helped your profile.
It wasn't a premeditated thing. It was just, I really, truly hated wearing a helmet. Hated wearing a helmet, because it's all sweaty and hot, and I just look, because in the summer when we play pond hockey, you're playing without a helmet, and just the feeling of the air and the freedom, it's like the guy who likes to ride a motorcycle, right? I've been, right there. So guys like, no, he's lost his hair, but, no, I'm just messing with you. It's the same idea. I wouldn't ride a motorcycle because I see and feel the fear, which is the same in hockey. And that's the best analogy I can give you. So I didn't think of, I'm going to do this to showcase myself. I just did it because it's what I liked. All I knew is that I can get a response from the fans. If I go out there and work hard, run into someone, score a goal, play hard, I can get a response. So as long as I do that, if I happen to look okay with the big hair, so what, right? It worked. Andy Warhol paid attention because he put me on the cover of his magazine.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Everyone know Andy Warhol? Yeah. You know what that is? All right.
Well done.
Him and I were buddies. Not really close, but we were buddies.
Yeah, he has some interesting followers and hang-on.
All that crew, they're all at Studio 54. That's right. Yeah, Cher, Bianca Jagger, Farrah Fawcett, Cheryl Teague. Oh, they're all there.
Is there something that you don't miss about playing?
Don't miss about playing. Oh, wow. I don't know. I liked everything, even in your bad days, you're still okay because you had the guys, right? You had your buddies, and you're playing hockey, and yeah, you had a bad day of not playing well, whatever, but there's always tomorrow, and I just loved everything about being a hockey player, so I don't know if there's anything that I don't miss.
So other than helmets and visors, how has the current game changed? And you're in a good position, and so is Wendell, I think, to chime in on this when we talk to him, because you are both still involved in the game, and you've been gone a little while from playing, but not that long. So what are the the most prominent or obvious things that you've seen about the way the game is played now than compared to when you did?
Well, you're looking at a different athlete, an athlete that's trained differently, probably similar to what I did. When I was 13, I was training hard. I was in a gym. So that's what these kids are doing now. They all have private trainers. Parents are pouring a lot of money into them, and so these guys they're not tougher or stronger. They're just in better shape. And because the NHL wanted to get away from all the clutching and grabbing, and Mary Lemieux was the one that really had enough. They had enough of that. So they kind of changed the game to what you see now. So because it changed, and they changed the rules, the red line, all that, now you have a faster game, now you have more skilled players. Well, that eliminated part of the entertainment value that we had, which is 2 or 3 guys are going to rough it up, run into guys, and to me that was very entertaining. And so you could be entertained in today's game. There'll be some good games, up and down, scoring some goals, tie checking, good goaltending, and all of that. But I do miss games of the 80s. I would, you look at 2 matchups, right? And you say, oh, Philly's going against Boston. This is going to be awesome tonight, right? Or Montreal's going against Boston. This is going to be, it's not just the game, but it's the individual guys going after each other. And, some people may think, well, that was a little too much as far as gladiator-like. It was sure entertaining.
Oh, sure was. It still is on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But increasingly, that's where you find it, because fighting is
diminished. Yeah.
It's diminished, and it's almost done. Aside from the occasional, spontaneous combustion. Are you okay with that? Are you okay if fighting continues to decline and one day it's pretty much gone?
Yeah. Because it's a hard-hitting sport, your guys are going to take advantage of others. And so I think that teams should be able to police itself with having certain players to be able to challenge those guys, get in their face, and I like the fact that if you hit me, I hit you back. I prefer that versus what you see sometimes. A guy will get a big hit, clean hit, big hit, and all of a sudden he's got to fight someone. I don't like that kind of fight. I would prefer guys, you hit me, okay, I'm going to hit you back. I prefer a bunch of hitting versus stupid fighting in that case. But if a guy runs into your goaltender, if a guy really gives a guy a cheap shot, he's got to answer to a few guys, and the occasion I prefer that versus dirty shots. Again, part of it is there's an entertainment value to it. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I have to think about, we've lost some good men who've had concussions, who've been fighters, who didn't know how to deal with concussions. They were medicated, and some guys took their life. And so, while I answer that, I have to consider that also, and that's a hard thing to see, and it's the same thing we've seen in football. So, I prefer not to see players get so hurt, depressed, under-medicated, that, but those guys were doing it full time, and so, yeah. We can ask Wendell his thoughts on that, and because we
what I wanted to say is your greatest thrills on the ice. We can talk about off the ice a little more if you want, but the greatest thrills you had as a player, because you were a very good NHL hockey player, you had an outstanding career, and you played on some very good teams. You didn't win a cup, I don't think, but you were in the running a few times. So what were your greatest thrills as a player?
Well, it's always winning, and I didn't win enough, but our biggest victories were in New York playing against the Islanders. They end up winning a lot of Stanley Cups, but every time we played against them, we would beat them. There was a great thrill. I loved playing against Montreal, loved going to Montreal, loved beating Montreal in Montreal, which was a very hard thing to do. But if you can do it, that was a big thrill for me because I grew up. Same thing like going to Toronto. There's certain locations were different than others. You go to Edmonton, not quite the same, right? But certain places, I love certain buildings, and Boston was another place where it was very difficult playing there. It was a small barn, and boy, I played my best games there because I knew I got to go 100 miles an hour tonight because you're going to get run over, right? And so when you win in those situations, Philadelphia for me, they hated me in Philadelphia. Oh, they hated me. And so again, you have a big game in those situations where you deal with the elements, right? You stand up, you put your big boy pants on, you just go and play, and you score a goal, you win the game, and you do it as a team. That's the fun part.
Right on. I think every hockey player ever can agree with that, at every level. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Duguay. Thank you, Ron.